Um, Hey guys, welcome back to Cinema Topical. Nate here, and today I'm ranking miscellaneous Star Wars characters on this ranking bracket that Strange Wang has made. The categories are finest, cool cat, likable, meh, nematode, and who? By the way, the reason I said miscellaneous is because you will find all Jedi and most major bad guys on separate videos, which are probably somewhere around my head right now. So first up, we have Admiral Akbar. One of the most quoted lines in all of Star Wars history. He's an admiral. He's very important. They do him a little dirty in Last Jedi, but I still dig it. But we don't know a ton about him, so I'm going to say Admiral Akbar is likable. Also, I preface this in both the other videos. This is a movie channel, so I'm only considering movie appearances. Any appearances they have in other TV shows, comic books, regular books, whatever, doesn't count. I'm only rating them based on their movie appearances. Next up, we have Bail Organa. Pretty important to the overarching story. He adopted Leia, raised her, very important guy in the politics of the world. I like Bail a lot. He does a lot of important stuff. I'm going to say he's a cool cat. Next up, we got Boss Nass. I like him because it's really fun to go... And I like him because he kind of proved, like, Jar Jar is the Gungan that we spend the most time with, and he's an idiot. And I really appreciate Boss Nass because he shows that Gungans are not dumb. They are very smart. He's running an entire underwater country. You know, they're definitely a little more simple-minded, but I like him. I'll put him in the likable category. Next up, we have C-3PO. C-3PO is really cool. When I was a kid watching the original trilogy over and over and over again, I thought C-3PO was really dope. As time has gone on, and I've gotten more C-3PO in my life, I feel like he's kind of worn his welcome. Like, there's this weird, like, we have to have C-3PO and we have to have R2 somehow in the movies because they're, like, essentially mascots for their franchise. And so from a money-making aspect, from a appealing to nostalgia and things like that aspect, I understand it. CP throws a bitch. Like, he is. He's soft. Like, I can't really stand C-3PO. So I'm going to say he's a nematode. Next up, we got Chewie. Chewie's a badass. Always has been. Always will be. Every single movie that Chewie has been in, he's been an important part. One of the most loyal characters in all of Star Wars. One of my favorite moments of rewatching Star Wars movies is rewatching Empire Strikes Back, and the moment where Chewie finds C-3PO all busted up. It's like Chewie's kind of been like, not mean, but to C-3PO for up until this point, but he's always been really cold to him. But he finds him all busted up and like takes care of him and like literally puts him on his back and carries him around. So it kind of shows Chewie's like touch of soft side. I love Chewie. I'm putting him in finest. He's great. Next up, I know this dude has a name because every character in Star Wars has a name. I don't know it, but he's one of the guys from the Cantina band, and they have one banger, one hit wonder of a band here, but they provide great background music. In the original trilogy, they're one of the first examples we get of how like unique a lot of these characters in Star Wars are going to look, and that they put a lot of time and effort into making all these different alien races look incredibly unique and different. But very not important to the story. But I'm still putting him ahead of C-3PO. So I'm going to put him in the meh category. Next up, Han. Super easy. First of all, it's Harrison fucking Ford. That's enough on its own. But Han is great. Han probably has the best like character arc in all of Star Wars. Not only just like from him being just this skeezy smuggler in the first movie to being a war hero to, everything with him and Leia and him being a father and what kind of father he was and everything leading up to that. There's no doubt Han's up there. He's absolutely in the finest category next to his buddy. IG-88, we get very little time with IG-88. But he is really cool. Droid Bounty Hunter. Only really see him in Empire. So, like, he looks cool, but he does nothing. And knowing what happens to IG-88 down the road, it's like, it is movies only, but it's hard not to influence. I'm going to put him in Nematode with C-3PO. Maybe I just hate droids. I don't know. We'll see as this goes on. Next up, we have Lando. Lando's just a cool motherfucker. I don't think he quite does enough in the movies to be in that finest category, but he is a really interesting splash of a character in there, having no real political ties. He's not involved in these overarching things. He's kind of just looking out for himself, but he gets wrapped up in the Empire's plot just for being friends with Han, and it is what it is. But I don't know that there's a character that embodies cool cat more than Lando does, so that's where he goes. Mon Mothma, essentially the leader of the rebel forces, making lots of big important decisions. Doesn't get a ton of scenes, but every scene that she's in, I really dig her. I really dig the younger version of her we get in Rogue One. So I'm gonna say she's likable. Padme, if she just wasn't into little boys, then a lot of the stuff that happens in Star Wars wouldn't have happened. So I think that has to affect her to a degree. She shows off that, she could take care of herself in a lot of situations. She's not always just this damsel in distress. She's an individual, more so than a lot of others in Star Wars, that really shows their feelings and is in touch with them a lot more. I want to put her in likable as well. I think that's the best spot. Next up, we have Leia, who is just an infinitely better version of her mother. Total badass. And a lot of times in film, when they write women characters, they do it poorly. And so they always either make them one or the other, right? She's either a total badass who doesn't want anything to do with men, or she's just head over heels in love with someone. Leia is the perfect balance of that. She's never resistant necessarily to the idea of being with someone. She's just picky about who it is, while still retaining a lot of independence and aforementioned badassness. So I think that I'm going to put her up there next to her future husband, Leia Solo. All right, R2. Definitely like him more than C-3PO. He's a brave little sucker for sure. They lean way too heavy on him in the prequels and the sequels, but that's not R2's fault. But however, it is how he's written. But he is, without a doubt, at least on the droid side, the undisputed mascot of the franchise. And so I think that he also goes in the likable category. Sebulba, man, when I saw episode 1 for the first time, I thought Sebulba was the coolest character that I'd ever seen in Star Wars, until by the end of the movie when I got to meet Darth Maul. He's just an asshole, but really cool character design, really cool interactions that they wrote with him and all that stuff. He is a slime ball, but he's the coolest slime ball. And so, even though we don't get a ton of him, want to say he's a cool cat. Next up, we have Shmi, Anakin's mom, Watto's slave. She gives her son some really good advice. I mean, she tries to like steer him away from the direction that he's insistent on going. But yeah, I don't know. I gotta give her a meh. She's just like really bland. Not impressed. All right, this is a sand person. I'm fairly certain that the tab. Was this a named sand person, or did you just pick a sand person?
That was the picture they had.
Okay, because I'm pretty sure this is from the book of Boba Fett. But anyways, sand people. They're really cool. They go and they ride banthas. We get to know a lot more about them in the Boba Fett series, but again, this is movies only. So in the movies, we get them in episode 4 a lot. They knock out Luke. They're doing their thing. Obi-Wan scares them away. We get them shooting at pods in episode 1. Yeah, sand people are cool, but for the movies, they're just kind of background. So I'm going to put him in the meh. Watto. Watto sucks. He's a fucking nematode. I'm not even going to... He sucks. Wedge Antilles. Wedge is great. Great pilot. Good friend to Luke. They knew each other on Tatooine. We don't get a ton of him, but I really enjoy Wedge's leadership and the little bit of interaction that we get between him and Luke. So he's going in likable. I was informed ahead of time that this is specifically Wicket and that he was not referring to all of the Ewoks. I don't hate Ewoks as much as a lot of other people do. Wicket's the one that we get the most time with. I don't want to say meh. They're still not great. I definitely don't hate them as much as a lot of people do, but they're not great. Greedo. I definitely know who Greedo is, but I gotta put him in the who category because this dude is around for all of like 18 seconds before Han smokes him. So, who? Okay, Captain Typho. He was pretty cool. I mean, we really didn't get a lot of time with him, but like he was, for the most part, pretty good at his job. The only reason that they captured Amidala is because she told them to stand down and just let it happen. But once Obi-Wan and Liam Neeson show up, my brain is struggling today. Thank you. Once they show up and free them, he's pretty on point. He's pointing his people around. He's clearly tactically sound. He definitely... Padme would have definitely died if not for Anakin sensing the weird slug things in the room. But, I can't fault a man for not being born force sensitive, for not having enough metachlorines. So I'm going to throw him in likable as well. I really like Typho. Uncle Owen. Okay, he did a nice thing. Like, he took Luke in. God, like, just nag. Like, he's really annoying. And it's sad that he dies. And I know that Luke was important to him. But I'm just going to go ahead and put him and Ambaru in the meh category. They're not around long enough for me to care that much. So, Nien Num. Okay, I know who he is. I remember his scenes very well. But, I mean, he's just not important. I'm going to put him in the who category with Greedo. Oh, Jawas. My eyes were messing with me. Jawas are tough because they're funny and like they're interesting, quirky, weird little things. I don't know that they're likable, but there's not a if there was a category in between meh and likable, I would put Jawas there. But there's not, and I don't think that I would make them likable, so I'm going to put them in meh. BB-8 only exists because they were like, well, everyone loved R2, so let's make a really cute, fun droid for these movies. And I think that's a really dumb reason to have him exist. I find him not nearly as important to the story as R2 ultimately is, even though they do, again, lean on R2 too much for nostalgia factors down the road. But for future Star Wars movies, I hope they give up on this whole, like, we have to have this beeping little astromech droid. So I'm going to put him in there. Poe Dameron. I think Poe is incredibly cool. Some of the best characters in Star Wars to me are the ones that are not Jedi, but still have just like incredible skills in something. So getting to watch him like fly his X-Wing around and like just do shit is so cool, especially in that battle outside Maz Kanata's joint. He's no Han Solo, but out of like all the characters that were created to specifically sort of mimic a character from the original trilogy, Poe is my favorite because he's like enough not like Han to where it doesn't feel glaring, but like they still have that kind of similar like I like to play by my own rules and I'm really good at what I do kind of vibe. Finn. Finn's a fucking nematode, man. I never really liked him that much. And even though I love The Last Jedi, I feel like a huge mistake that they made in that movie was at the end when he's going to like suicide crash his little skiff thing into the cannon to destroy it. Rose comes in, crashes him, saves him, which could have easily just killed both of them. But they shouldn't have let that happen. They should have let Finn do it. They should have let him sacrifice himself. And to me, that would have like elevated that character so much. But they didn't. And I just think that he's really annoying and kind of whiny. So I'm not a big Finn fan. Maz Kanata. Yeah, I like her a lot. I think that's really cool to like throw this character in there that like is essentially an information broker, but owns this kind of seedy bar at the same time. Kind of knows some things that she doesn't let on to initially. Plays her cards right, but is very much so still a good guy. I like Maz a lot, so bump her up. Andor's sick. I wish that I could include the TV series in this, but I can't. So going off of Rogue One, he's seen some shit. He's a little too cynical, a little too jaded, a little too bought in at this point to where it kind of causes him to be a bit of an asshole. But he is a very cool character. And so I'm going to put him up there with the cool cats. Sedacious B. Crumb. For a lot of people on the internet, that's a who. But it shouldn't be because he's funny. And I really like watching him interact with Jabba. And so he gets a likable. Porkins. Poor Porkins. Not only does this dude get blown up, but like the most on the nose, unfortunate name of any movie character in history that wasn't intentional. Like there are plenty of characters that it's like, oh, we'll call him Fat Joe because he's fat. Or like we'll be ironic and we'll call him Tiny because he's massive and built. Like they didn't call Porkins because he was a little chunky. That was just the character's name. And he is, in fact, a little bit chunky. So, Porkins, I'm sorry, man. You're a who. Alright, Chirrut Imwe. He is really cool. I would love to see more explanation, or exploration, of these, like, Force monks who, like, clearly are tapped into the Force. They don't use it the way that Jedi use it. But they've sort of developed their own sort of Buddhist-like sect and martial arts based in the Force. So that's like super interesting to me. I really love that character. But it's Rogue One, so, you know, everybody dies. I'm going to give him a cool cat. and then his buddy Baze, who is still really cool, but not as cool as Chirrut, I'm going to put in the likable category. Saul Guerrera, by the time we meet him in this movie, he's kind of lost his shit, but still a rebel, still fighting these guerrilla style tactics. But I feel like we could have gotten a lot more out of that character, and I really don't like the way that they made him talk in the movies, so I'm going to give Saul in the movies a meh. K2SO, super easy. He's a cool cat. He's probably the best droid they've ever put in a Star Wars movie in terms of function, banter, importance to the story, like what he's there for. Great, excellent written character. And like moving forward, they should look back at him and say, okay, how do we write these good droid sidekicks into these movies? Because they don't need to be clones of him, but like how they used him is great. Rancors are super cool. I had like a probably like 6-inch Rancor action figure when I was a kid. Freaking loved playing with that thing. It was so cool. But tough to rank it because it really is mostly in the movies a mindless animal. Obviously in Boba Fett we get to see another Rancor and kind of figure a little bit more out about them. But for the most part, it is just a wild animal that wants to feed, and Luke handles it fairly. One of the better scenes in the franchise. So I can't call it. I don't know. I'm going to put it in likable, and we're switching our definition of likable. Like, not likable as a person, but just a likable addition to the Star Wars universe. I don't remember his name. I'm not going to look it up, but Benicio del Toro's character, he is a nematode. I understand his purpose. He's definitely served somewhat of a purpose in the movies, but he's not in it long enough, I don't think, and the way that they just used him really quick to drive that part of the plot, like, it was a little too rushed. I think they could have done a little more, but it is what it is. I don't know this guy's name, but I'm just going to call him, I'm wanted on 12 systems. I got to put him in likable. I really love talking with people who like know Star Wars a lot, because that's just like, to me, one of the most underrated scenes in all of Star Wars, but especially in New Hope, because it's like, it's just this one-off conversation you get. The whole point of it is to let you know that Mos Eisley is dangerous, and that Obi-Wan can still handle himself besides being an old man. But I freaking just love that line. Like, that whole interaction is incredible to me. Babu Frick was pretty cool. At first, I was like, this is just another, like, Babu Frick's for the kids. Like, they just put him in here to lighten the mood and all that stuff. But, like, he is actually really helpful to the story. Important. Knows his stuff. So he's going in likable as well. Jalen Erso. Probably the character with the least amount of screen time that I'm going to give a cool cat to, because I really love the idea of his character. That he, like, essentially played along with the Empire all this time, slipped the weakness into the Death Star. A lot of people hate that. I don't understand that. I think that's, like, ingenious. The Rebels have been fighting this war for way longer than when it picks up in A New Hope. And the fact that someone, like, engineered that and made it to where that people down the line could figure it out, I think that's incredibly smart. I love that a lot. Gamorrean guards, they're big pig people, and that's kind of cool, but they are just blaster and lightsaber fodder. So I'm going to put them in the who? Jar Jar, he's a fucking nematode. I hate Jar Jar. Jyn Erso, very cool character. Rogue One, like, one of the, if not the best. I like personally, I love Star Wars so much. I have a hard time saying I think Rogue One is the best Star Wars movie because it doesn't really fit in any of the trilogies, and those are kind of the big overarching points of the story and all that stuff. Jyn is an excellently written character. Really, really love that movie, and am always impressed by it. So I'm gonna put Jyn up in finest, and then finally, Garrick, something like that. Woody Harrelson's character. I don't forgot his name. Anyways, Woody Harrelson from Solo, a Star Wars story. Yeah, I appreciate him. Him kind of like being Han's mentor, the one that pulls him into this world of crime and smuggling. It makes Han make a lot of sense. The double crossing at the end also helps make Han's character make a lot of sense. He doesn't trust anybody. So I'm going to put him in likable as well. And that's it. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. What did I get wrong? What did I get right? Any other characters that should have been on here? And where would you have put them? I don't know. Scroll back up. Hit the like button. Subscribe.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.